The Mighty moves into the deepest spot in the port and readies her anchor. And it's quite the anchor. Rotterdam is one of the few ports in the world with a waterhole deep enough to pull off this amazing aquatic feat. The theory is quite simple. Sink the ship deep enough to pull off the rig. But moving something this big isn't going to be easy. The captain is ready. Step 1. Prep the ship. The Mighty's 20-story derrick has to clear the deck. Everything you now see will soon be deep underwater. Step 2. Cut through the sea fasteners. 24 monster steel bands, each the length of 2 school buses, currently lash the Mighty's rig to her decks. They have to take them off the same way they got them on, with 1,000 degrees of heat. The joints are solid steel. It takes a quarter of an hour to cut through just one. Step 3. Fill her up. The crew prepares to strategically fill the numerous below-deck ballast tanks overnight, basically reversing the process that got the rig onto its deck. The captain opens up the Mighty's belly to the frigid waters of the North Sea, and the big sink has begun. Throughout the night, enough water to fill 22 Olympic-sized swimming pools slowly weighs down the vessel. But the captain can't sink the ship evenly. It would become too unstable. The Mighty's stern has to go down first, followed by her bow, until the keel descends 21 meters. It's a long night's work for the crew. By morning, the rig should float free, but once her sea fasteners are removed, she'll be at her most vulnerable. It's 3:30 a.m. Outside the port, the mega-deep Berger Stahl pushes through the last stretch of open sea before her grand entrance, when the port hits high tide. Rotterdam is bringing in her biggest ship. And the Stahl is ready.
The helicopter will be ready above your ship at 0430, so it's ETA rendezvous 0430.
The captain has brought his vessel safely to the mouth of the Euro Channel, the port's front door. But getting her through it goes beyond his expertise. It's time for Rotterdam's experts to take over. It's time for the pilots. The best way to land on a moving ship the size of a small town in the dead of night is via chopper. Once on board, they've got an open deck, a flight of stairs, a 7-story elevator ride, and a costume change before they reach the captain's bridge. The ship is now in Rotterdam's charge. Harbour control gives the all-go, and the grand opus of ship navigation begins. Getting a mountain of a ship to go where you want demands one massive propeller. At 9.5 meters diameter, 5 men lying end to end would barely make the distance. To replicate the incredible prop thrust from these blades, you would need more than 4 submarines. But the pilot's job now is to actually restrain the Stahl's power. It's almost time for her big test. getting through the port's front door. Will she run aground or just squeeze through these shallow waters? The Savannah's mega-wide load has been safely docked. But now, the port must face another challenge. How do you unload one of the world's largest container ships in less than 24 hours? Giant robots. Almost every machine you now see is controlled by computer. And these high-tech titans' output is staggering. Lined up end-to-end, the containers that pass through Rotterdam in 1 year could wrap around the world. This sea of industrial muscle is Delta Terminal. If the Savannah is going to make it to her next port on schedule, Delta's heavy metal minions have got to make quick work of her colossal cargo. 4 40-story loading cranes hover like vultures. Then, these bruisers attack Savannah's stacks. Overhead cable systems fast-track crane operators over their new turf. Even from 10 stories up, the human eye is the best judge to expertly place the stackers on all 4 corners. But then, the machines take over. Each loading crane can deadlift 40 tons. Below, the container's chariot awaits. Called an Automated Guided Vehicle, AGV, this car has a mind of its own. Literally. There's no driver because an onboard navigation system regulates its position, direction, even speed by a magnetic grid set into the tarmac. Once the container is loaded on the AGV's back, top-mounted infrared eyes ID the container and instantly roll the load to a preset stacking location, where another giant robot takes over. The stacking crane. Towering 5 stories in the air, this mega machine can grab, haul, and drop the equivalent of 5 school buses. Like the AGV, she takes orders from no man. Every move along her magnetic track is totally pre-programmed. Just like the other 37 cranes. 370 robotic cars that make up Delta's muscle fleet. Nearly 4 million containers pass through this terminal every year. That's 10,000 per day, 400 per hour. Tracking that kind of inventory requires some serious computer power. Delta's mainframe monitors the contents and location of every container in her matrix. By the time the Savannah pulled up to her dock, the computer had totally simulated her entire offloading plan. Container shipping has only been around for about 50 years, but today 75% of the world's goods move inside these steel boxes.
When you take a bottle of milk out your refrigerator, it probably comes with a container. Or when you put the videotape in your video player, it probably comes with a container.
Almost all of Savannah's containers are in motion for their final destination. But a few are about to get a second look. A very powerful look. This container is in for a scan 25 times stronger than your average human X-ray. It's got to be thorough. Every kind of contraband has been stashed in a container's cargo. Cigarettes, cocaine, and weapons. Luckily, the Savannah's containers pass the security check. Meanwhile, Delta's army continues to chip away at her stacks. Even with this much mechanical brawn, a container ship this size takes the better part of a day to offload. Soon, her decks will be stacked with every kind of good imaginable, and she'll take to the seas once again.